excited today to introduce the daily talks, which topic is how can real estate fundamentals reinvent value? To talk about that, I would like to introduce you to Olivier Mège, CEO and founder of RQR Global, and Etienne Dupuy, Managing Director of Invesco. So Olivier, Etienne, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Sophie, and thank you to everyone for giving us the opportunity to present today. So I'm going to share my screen. I think it should be good. Sophie, can you see my screen? And Etienne?
Not yet, we can see you, but not your screen yet.
Okay.
Not yet, but it takes a bit of time.
Right.
Just select the window you want to share.
Yeah, I'm on it right now.
Okay.
Can you operate it?
Not for the moment. We don't see anything. We just see you.
Okay, good. Let me try again. Okay, it seems that the screen share is not activated on your side.
Okay. Maybe you can start, and we will try to find the best way to.
Okay. Good. All right. Okay. All right. Well, thanks again. So we would like to talk about RQR quality rating and how can building fundamentals how to connect building fundamentals to value. So very quickly, we are a real estate rating agency, which is I would say a new business. To give you, to make a parallel, Standard & Poor's and Moody's who rate on the credit side. We do something that is quite similar, but on the real estate side. And so what we do is that we provide rating and analytics for decision making. And our clients are primarily asset managers, asset owners. But recently our client base has also diversified, and we are also working with tenants, construction companies, facility managers, building consultants, etc. And we think it's a good thing because it's I think important that everyone gets involved in making the real estate market work better. And we think that today is not exactly the case. In the first part, we'll talk about 3 points mainly. In the first part, we'll explain why we think the real estate market is dysfunctional. In the second part, we will propose solutions, and we explain how these solutions can be used into use cases. And in the third part, we will, with Etienne, more specifically focus on the asset management process.
Olivier, maybe just sorry to interrupt you. I
Mm-hmm.
actually managed to share the screen.
Oh, good.
So I don't know if others can see, but the system tells me that I'm sharing your presentation now.
I can confirm that your presentation.
Okay, so you're operating it.
Press the buttons for
okay.
you, right?
I'll tell you. Perfect. Okay. So now, if there were 3 words that you would need to remember about us, I think 3 keywords are objective, holistic, and independent. Objective, holistic, independent. So Etienne, can we go to the next slide?
The slide which is called "What is the problems?"
Exactly.
All right, you're on it.
Okay, perfect. So why do we think that the real estate market is not necessarily today functioning well, and that value is not an accurate representation of building fundamentals? So when we talk about fundamentals here, we're not talking about market fundamentals like economic growth or vacancy rates. We're talking about the building's fundamentals. So building fundamentals means it refers to the physical features of the property that are considered by market participants as the most important. So today you can see that you can see the physical features, you can see market expectations. I mean, the two getting together produce the perception of quality. And then the issue is that you can see that value is far away and not necessarily today connected with these fundamentals. So what are the issues? Etienne, can you please? So the first one, can you please click, Etienne?
To see the
yes.
following slide?
No, it will be the same slide. It's an animation.
Sorry. So if I click on one?
Correct.
No, I'm not sure it works with my presentation.
Okay.
Or is it? No, it doesn't seem to be.
Okay. Anyway,
it's a PDF.
Yeah. Okay. I see. All right. So So the first issue relates to I mean the knowledge or the definition and the accessibility of information about the physical features of property, and also about market expectations. So we don't necessarily know what we have to look for, and we don't necessarily know to what extent these physical features are deemed as important by market participants. So that's the first issue. The second one is that I mean, a lot of investors and asset managers try to make quality scores, because you will see that quality is an essential part of a lot of decisions. The problem with these quality scores is that, again, definition of quality is not shared. There's no clear process for measuring this concept. And as a consequence, I mean, the quality perception is remains very subjective. And the third issue relates to the connection between quality and value. And today it is not clear how quality is reflected into values, precisely because there is no, I mean, clear measurement of quality, and there is no clear relation established between quality, how to come from quality to value. And eventually, we think that there's also confusion on the value side, where a lot of people, including appraisers, consider that value is price, when it's clearly something different. It's something different not only in real estate, or in the real estate market, it's also something different on the equity market, where there's a conviction about value, and investment decision is then triggered by comparing value versus price. If price is above value, I'm short. If or I sell. If price is below value, then I'm long. I buy. So, well, the objective of OKR is effectively to solve these problems, and these problems have, I mean, important consequences, which are on the right-hand side of the slide. It gives, I mean, bad incentives. If fundamentals are not correctly reflected into value, then value creation is not properly rewarded. Bad incentives gives birth to bad decisions, and eventually it translates into a disconnect between social expectations and capital allocation. So. So how do we, and we think also that the current situation is not durable, basically mainly for two reasons. One is pressure, external pressure onto the profession, the real estate profession, and the other one is a desire by the profession to change. So why do they want to change? Because they want to actually integrate sustainable development factors into decision making, and second, because they have a certain view on what is their ethics as professionals, and they want to deliver their fiduciary duty by using state-of-the-art decision making tools. So what are we proposing to answer these expectations. So Etienne, we are on the following slide.
Slide 3, yep.
Slide 3, yeah. Well, the response is basically to equip market participants with a decision-making tool. And this decision-making tool enables different things. One is, so as I said, a connection between fundamentals and key valuation assumptions. So here you can see on the left-hand side assumptions related to rent, and on the right-hand side assumptions related to yield. And also it enables, the integration of decision streams, whether they relate to ESG, whether they relate to risk and investment decisions. So we are not schizophrenic anymore. We don't have ESG on the one hand, risk on the other, and investment on the third part. Everything can come together and be consistent. And you can see that the central articulation of this is what we call integral quality. So integral quality, it's a measure of building fundamentals performance. It has different features. It is intrinsic. So we make the clear distinction between the quality of the building of the property and the ultimate performance of the property, for example, in terms of energy consumption. The ultimate energy consumption is not only a function of the quality of the building, intrinsic quality of the building, but it's a compound also. It's also compounded with the usage and the management of the property. So we make a clear distinction on that. A second characteristic of this quality is that it is holistic. So it compounds, it contains not only real estate factors, but it also integrates sustainable development factors. So what we call real estate factors are the building and the location, basically. Here for offices, it's workspace, build structure, and location. But also it integrates sustainable development factors like economic utility, social utility, environmental utility. Then a third characteristic is that it is objective. Objective to the extent that a fundamental will weigh on quality only to the extent that it is important for market participants. And it is dynamic. So the models that are behind this integral quality measurement are updated on an annual basis. And so they reflect the underlying changes in market participants' expectations in relation with these fundamentals. And one last point regarding this, this system, it really goes beyond valuation, as it allows to know by how much a property can be improved, and also it helps in prioritizing those improvements. So how this decision-making tool is delivered. So that's on the next slide, slide 4, Etienne.
Platform and the service.
Yep. The way it is delivered is through platform, but it is also a service. So we tend to oppose platform and services. In this case, it is both. It is a platform and a service. And the results of the assessment of a property can be accessed through this interactive platform, which is also highly secured. We use the same protocol as for banking transactions. And so what are the information that are provided to you on this platform? It is about rating of the property. So you can see it on the left. Then it is about benchmarking. You can compare the quality of your property versus, or your portfolio of properties versus benchmark, and identify risk, strength and weaknesses, which is the third level of analysis that is provided here. And then based on the analysis of strengths and weaknesses, we can determine quantitatively the contribution of each of the dimensions to the positioning of the property. Hence, if you decide to improve the property, it will impact the quality measurement. It will then change the positioning of the property on the leasing market, and then we'll be able to estimate by not only by how much quality has improved, but also what is the impact of this improvement on the achievable rent, or on the yield that should be applied to this property. So the idea is that we can adapt, as being at the same time a platform and a service means that we can adapt to different clients' configurations. We can go from a full service approach where we take care of entirely, we take care of the structuring of the data, so you don't have to touch anything. We structure the data for you. To situations where we have clients who want to play with the tool and want to be autonomous with it. So from full service to self-service. And obviously we are at your entire disposal for any demonstration. So where are we today in terms of our capacity, rating capacity? Etienne, we're on slide 5.
Yes, we are.
Okay. So on slide 5, so we have, for the moment, we are able to rate properties at the pan-European level on 2 sectors, offices, logistics, and we are in the process of developing other models. You know, being very into valuations, we are a member of the IVSC, International Valuation Standard Council, which is the organization that works on the valuation standards, not only for real estate, but for all asset types. We have a collaboration with the RICS on the development of the global data standard, on the physical aspects of the property, and finally we have also global ambitions with people working in North America and in Asia, to be able to have actually a global reach. So what are the use cases now of this system? So let's focus first on the upper part of this slide that shows in green the life cycle of a fund, from the strategy definition down to the performance measurement. And you can see that at this level, we are able to, thanks to the risk analysis, we can help with strategy definition. For example, we can have clients deciding that they want to focus on a certain class of quality in given markets. We can also help with portfolio management because we can provide a portfolio level view of a fund, the properties in the fund. So it enables it opens the perspective of doing factor investing, and we can also on the performance side help measuring impact or calibrate impact targets for some funds, impact funds, and we can help also with client reporting. Clients who expect to see more holistic way of looking at value. They are interested in active value creation. They want to also understand why value has changed from one exercise to the other, and they would want to know whether it is due to market impact or whether it is due to obsolescence and a decline in attractiveness of the property. If we focus now on the execution step in this overall process, then we can help with obviously acquisitions, dispositions, by positioning properties on the market, and also by estimating key valuation assumptions that are consistent with this positioning. And now what I would like to do is to focus more on the asset management process and hand over the the floor to Etienne. Etienne,
Thank you, Olivier.
Thank you.
I'm going on the slide number 7 now. And there was a question by one of the listeners, and thank you for that. I think you answered to an extent. I just want to complete the answer by saying how Invesco is, let's say, a perfect user for that, because we are an investment manager, and we have above everything a fiduciary duty to be absolutely accountable for the decisions we're making. And I think a key word in our job is actually intentionality. We are intentional when we buy. We are writing a story on the asset. We are actually underwriting a story of the asset and how we are designing a journey to create performance. And we owe ourselves this kind of transparency that we are saying, I see that weakness in this building. I want to work on it, and I want to improve the situation, and that will be my asset management value creation. Obviously, as any investment allocator, we are providing for the service of surfing the market cycle, and obviously, hopefully entering with favorable pricing and exiting with more favorable pricing. And that's a valuable service, but even stronger, I think, with our investors will be that we are actually describing what we want to do with the asset and creating value by actually creating quality. And I think that's it's a key factor why we have chosen to use RQR. It started actually with one specific asset where the business plan was relatively simple. We bought an asset which was virtually 20 years old. It was actually older than this, but the technical level of the building was 20 years old. And we said, given our timing, given the situation of the building, we are likely to be pretty rare anyway when we deliver the building, but we actually want to ensure that we have just the best building available. And we were willing to push the boundaries, and we actually managed to push some boundaries. But you can end up spending a lot of money to just get the best building because you think it's just nice. That's not the idea, obviously. And what you want to do is also to be able to assess the cost and benefit of the improvements you're making, and whether indeed the market accepts the quality level and accepts to pay for quality. So there, RQR is also helping. So I would say at this stage, RQR is providing a photographic view of what is the current level of quality of a given building. Then you can project yourself in the improvements you want to make and remeasure the plan, remeasure the project. And then obviously when you have achieved the project, reassure you that you are meeting the targets you had in terms of quality. But more importantly, obviously, you are actually comparing the correlation you have, and you would expect any market to have a high correlation between quality and value. So this is the case in real estate. Even if real estate is not exactly a transparent market, there is a high correlation between quality and achievable rent. So that's how we use RQR to help us in the decision making. And that works for acquisition, because you sometimes are very, very time constrained, and you want to understand quickly where you can act to improve the quality of a building you are underwriting. So that's where RQR is quicker and more to the point. It provides also this notional benchmarking approach to position your asset against what is the prime asset in the market, or some typical buildings, or the typical prime building in the market. Part of our job is actually to create, think of a prime or core building and work backwards so that we are designing something that works as best as possible for our tenants, and then potentially for the next buyer. So it is helping devising business plans and then potentially making a decision for wholesale, where we think at some point we've done what was required for the fund, or we have done our maximum to create the value of the asset, and then the asset is ripe for disposal. So it is helping at many stages in our process, and basically helping us being quicker, being actually able to communicate in a more robust way to other stakeholders in the project and help the decision making. So if you go more specifically by kind of areas where we can benefit from the tool, and we have actually benefited from the tool, is actually understand better your building as a building within a competitive set. So position your building is actually important, and sometimes when you are underwriting or reviewing, you're at risk of missing maybe a tiny point, which actually can be much in demand by the market. So it's about knowing holistically as holistically as possible your building. It's about also to an extent being consistent, and with consistency comes ease of communication to various stakeholders. So we are able to integrate ESG, risk, and it's very efficient for that. We believe it helps us enhancing our returns ultimately, because in effect, we are actually able to better gauge the decision making when we want to improve quality versus the cost involved, versus the time it takes to improve quality, etc., versus what the market can pay as a rent, for example, or what the market can pay as a pricing. So I think we are getting some return enhancement, but more importantly, I would say the return risk adjusted in our perspective. We obviously are able to create meaningful identification of opportunities in a building. And that's again to say that we're not always just about maximizing the quality. It's always an optimization work where you have sometimes time constraint because you have a tenant waiting and you can't just miss the boat, so to say, by having too long a work period. It can be that you are in a value add fund and you don't want to maximize completely the quality of the building because your return expectation is also very time constrained and so on. You want obviously to be different, and the way we see ourselves as different is actually we are intentional, and we are driving the assets we manage. So we are designing a plan which is as robust as possible. We're then executing, and then we are reporting on how successful we have been in executing. And our QA is really helpful to document that process and increase the trust our clients have in our robust decision making. I think ultimately it is also a label. And to be fair, when you see some recent labels like ESG labels like BREEAM News, and more recently well-being labels, connection labels, I don't think you are sometimes discovering a lot, but the way you discover is so much quicker. Word Score, for example, is a good other example where instead of reviewing a building for 2 or 3 weeks, you have the label ready at hand, and that helps really making the decision. So I think it is also a good way to improve the communication on the buildings. And when you have a real AAA building, you can actually communicate that it is a AAA. And again, I think it's important to insist that the whole market is not about being AAA everywhere for all the buildings. The market is about having tenants who are cost conscious as well and want to compromise on quality. They are interested in BBB buildings because that's what they need. So it's not about just prescripting the norm. It's about understanding better how the buildings is positioned, and it works for buyers in the capital market, and it works extremely well for tenants in the rental market. I'm done with that. I think we may have a few questions, and I'm sorry if we have been a bit longer than expected.
No, don't be. It was really complete and detailed, and I hope that everyone gets the maximum of information. Otherwise, they can always contact you. Just a quick question, just maybe to end the session. What about when you talk about the quality of the building? room for the user experience? How do you take into account the user, the individual people or corporate users, tenants, into the AAA quality?
Sure.
Or what is the value for
Right.
you, Olivier, and how do you measure that? And
Okay.
what is the value for you as an investor?
Correct.
Is the value on it?
Yeah, I get it. Thank you. Sure. I will start, Etienne. So the way we capture that is because we, I talked about objectivity when I presented the way we measure quality, and this objectivity comes from the fact that we in fact assess or analyze the way market participants look at quality. So we don't decree quality from the top arbitrarily. We will survey the market, and when doing so, we survey not only investors but also users, so occupiers, tenants, and we ask them what is important for them. And as a result of that, this is from their priorities that we define weights in the rating system.
Yeah, and I think it's really key. And when you ask the same question to both of us, actually the answer is virtually the same, because our job as asset manager is actually to provide premises which are working for people, which are as attractive and as useful for people to use. Real estate is not an art. It's pretty artisanal in a way. So it needs to be beautiful. I think that's one of the elements, of course, but it needs to be convenient. It needs to be usable, and it needs to be attractive in just being usable. So there is an element of its design, and it's the best design that works. So we are actually extremely careful about what our tenants and what our ultimate users are thinking of our buildings. And actually, the model we see with what Olivier has developed is actually a market model. And I would say to the point Olivier was making, if you have one person, you have subjectivity. If you have two persons talking to one another, you have two subjectivities. If you have three persons discussing a topic, you start to have a debate. When you have 5%, you start to have something which is more robust. And what we call consensus sometimes is taking time. And the model Olivier has developed is consensus of 200 people talking together, so to say. And then I'm actually convinced, and it's amazing how consistent then the feedback is. And what we've done actually in our buildings was to actually use the RQR model with the market panel RQR have managed to develop, but we also ask ultimate users. And comparing the two yields interesting results in such that, 99% is common. So that's the beauty of the market intelligence, I would say. And we think it's useful for us as an investor and as an asset manager, because in the first instance, it's giving us a better view and more robust view on what the market of the users is asking for.
Okay, clear. Thank you. I think we're going to end the session. So thank you, Olivier. Thank you, Etienne, for being with us. Thank you, all of us. And I would say see you tomorrow. So same time, 4 p.m. Paris time, for our Friendship Friday session. So with Price Hubble and Foncia.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.